She didn't scream. She didn't rebel. She just disappeared, while still living in the same house. At 16, Hannah Miller stopped talking. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. She used to fill the house with noise, singing while brushing her teeth, laughing too loud at dinner, talking about her dreams. Then one day her parents realized they barely heard her voice anymore. She stayed in her room. Her phone became her world. Her eyes always looked tired. Her parents, David and Laura Miller, lived in Toronto, Canada. From the outside, they looked like a normal, happy family. But inside their home, something was breaking. They gave her everything, except the one thing she didn't know how to ask for. They tried everything: therapy, counseling, new rules, more freedom. Nothing worked. Every attempt felt like pressure. Every conversation ended in silence. "I feel like we're losing her," Laura whispered one night. By 17, Hannah started saying things that terrified them. "I don't matter. I don't see the point anymore." That's when her parents realized this wasn't rebellion. It was disconnection. The solution wasn't another therapist. It was a plane ticket. Laura's company offered her a 3-month assignment in Cebu, Philippines. At first, it sounded insane, taking a struggling teenager halfway across the world, to a place she didn't know, away from everything familiar. Hannah hated the idea. "I'm not going!" she snapped. But after weeks of silence, they made a choice. They wouldn't leave her behind. They would take her with them. The Philippines didn't feel healing at first. It felt unbearable. The flight was quiet. Headphones on. Eyes on the window. No words. When they landed, everything hit at once. The heat, the noise, the traffic that never stopped. Hannah hated it immediately. "This place is chaos," she muttered. The first 2 weeks were miserable. She stayed inside all day, curtains closed, phone glowing in the dark. She felt trapped. The person who changed everything never gave advice. The family hired a local helper named Lani. She was gentle, soft-spoken, always smiling. Lani didn't ask Hannah questions, didn't tell her to open up, didn't try to fix her. One afternoon, Lani simply said, "You don't look happy here." Hannah shrugged. "I'm not." Lani smiled. "Come with me tomorrow." They rode a crowded jeepney. The metal seats were warm. Music blasted from old speakers overhead, loud, joyful, unapologetic. Strangers sat shoulder to shoulder, knees touching, arms brushing with every turn. Hannah held on to the rail tightly. Everything felt too close, too noisy, too unfamiliar. She expected people to stare at her black clothes, at her silence, at the way she tried to make herself small. But no one did. Someone laughed. Someone offered her a piece of candy. A woman smiled at her like she'd been there 100 times before. The jeepney slowed, and Lani tapped her arm. They stepped down into a narrow street. Small houses stood close together, paint faded but alive with color. Children ran barefoot on the pavement, chasing each other, shouting, laughing. A radio played somewhere in the distance. The smell of food drifted through the air, garlic, oil, something sweet. Hannah stopped walking. It was loud, messy, imperfect, and somehow warm. They entered Lani's home. People were already there, more than Hannah expected. Family, neighbors, friends. No one paused when they saw her. No one whispered. No one asked who she was or why she looked the way she did. Instead, a woman smiled and pressed a plate into her hands. "Come, eat," she said. Someone pulled out a chair. Another filled her plate with rice. A child sat beside her without hesitation. They didn't ask questions. They didn't ask where she was from. They didn't ask what was wrong with her. They didn't ask why she was so quiet. They just made space. Food passed from hand to hand. Laughter filled the room. Someone teased someone else. Someone else burst into song. Hannah felt something tighten in her chest. This was the first time in months she wasn't trying to disappear. She tried eating the food the way everyone else did, and failed. Rice fell back onto her plate. Someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. Not at her. With her. For the first time in months, Hannah laughed too. Not out of politeness, not to pretend, but because she felt welcome. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like something was wrong with her. She felt like she belonged. Lani invited Hannah to help at a small after-school program one afternoon. It wasn't a big place, just a few plastic chairs, old desks with chipped paint, a whiteboard stained by years of use. Hannah shook her head immediately. "I don't belong there," she said. "I wouldn't help anyone." She meant it. For so long she had felt like a burden, a problem, someone who took up space without giving anything back. Lani didn't argue. She simply said, "Just come." So Hannah went. She sat at the edge of the room at first, unsure what to do with her hands. Children filed in, dropping their bags, laughing, calling out to each other. No one seemed nervous around her. A boy pushed a book toward her. "Can you help me?" he asked. Her voice almost didn't come out. But she nodded. They read slowly together, sounding out words, stopping, trying again. When he finally finished the page, his face lit up. "Did I do it right?" he asked. Hannah smiled before she realized she was smiling. She helped another child with math, counting carefully, explaining gently. Time passed without her noticing. For the first time in months, her mind wasn't crowded with thoughts about herself. It was focused on someone else. Then a small girl named Ira ran up to her. Without warning, she wrapped her arms around Hannah's waist and squeezed tightly. "Thank you," the girl said softly. "You're nice." Hannah froze. The words hit her harder than she expected. Nice, kind, useful. That night, back in her room, Hannah sat on the bed and stared at the wall. Tears came quietly. Not from pain, not from sadness, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. She mattered, and for the first time, she believed it. At first, her parents didn't notice anything at all. There was no announcement, no dramatic moment, no sudden shift, just small things. Hannah came out of her room earlier than usual one evening. She sat at the table while her parents were eating. No phone in her hand. She listened. The next night, she stayed again. Then she reached for food on her own. She started eating meals with them, not because she was asked, but because she wanted to be there. She laughed again, not loudly, not constantly, but naturally. She told them about the kids she helped, about the jokes Lani's family told, about the way the sunsets looked different here. Her parents exchanged glances when she wasn't looking, careful not to say anything, afraid to break whatever fragile thing was happening. One evening, they walked together along the ocean. The sky was turning soft shades of orange and purple. The sound of waves filled the silence between them. It felt peaceful. Then Hannah spoke. "I think I know what was wrong," she said quietly. They stopped walking. She looked at them, her voice steady but unsure. "I felt like a problem that needed fixing," she said. "Like everything about me was something to correct." Her mother reached for her hand and squeezed it tightly. No advice, no answers, just understanding. None of them realized how quickly time had passed. 3 months slipped away faster than anyone expected, and none of them were ready for what came next. The airport was louder than Hannah expected. Rolling suitcases, voices calling out names, announcements echoing overhead. But everything felt distant. Hannah stood still, holding on to Lani's hands like she was afraid to let go. 3 months ago, she had arrived angry, closed off, convinced nothing could help her. Now she didn't recognize that girl anymore. Her throat tightened. Tears came before she could stop them. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Lani, holding her as tightly as she could. "You saved me," Hannah whispered, her voice breaking. Lani didn't pull away. She held Hannah gently, one hand resting on her back, the other brushing her hair aside. When Hannah finally pulled back, Lani looked at her with a soft smile. "No," she said quietly. "You were never broken." Hannah's chest ached, because in that moment she understood. Nothing had been fixed, nothing had been repaired. She had simply been seen. And that realization stayed with her long after the plane took off. Back in Canada, Hannah didn't arrive as a new person. She arrived as herself. But something was different. She didn't rush anymore, didn't hide in her room, didn't disappear into her phone the way she used to. She was quieter, but not withdrawn, not perfect, not suddenly confident, just present. She volunteered after school, sitting with kids who reminded her of the ones she'd met in the Philippines. She reached out to classmates who sat alone, the way she once had. She stayed connected to the people who had changed her life. Weekly video calls, shared messages, quiet laughter across time zones. Her parents noticed it most in the small moments. The way she listened, the way she noticed others, the way she showed up. Today, Hannah studies social work. Not because she has all the answers, but because she understands the question. What does it mean to feel seen? She returns to the Philippines whenever she can. To the same neighborhoods, the same people, the same place where she first remembered herself. So what really happened? In Canada, Hannah felt invisible, even in a full room. In the Philippines, she was seen, without needing to explain herself. Sometimes healing doesn't come from changing who we are. It comes from being surrounded by people who remind us who we already are. Have you ever experienced a place or a person that changed you? Share your story in the comments. Salamat.